I am now going to be selling some of my games to Phoenix Resale. Which I know, that sounds crazy even for me to say out loud. I genuinely just never thought I would be the guy. But in my journey to sell off large portions of my collection in order to purchase a factory sealed Super Mario Bros., I am utilizing and considering all options to make this as effortless as possible while still trying to maximize value a bit. So in saying that, when I heard that Phoenix Resale is building this GameCube collection of his childhood dreams, I had to put together a nice little stack of games for him. Hopefully if he watches this, he can crack a smile at that. And I'll talk about that whole transaction in a lot of detail in just a bit here, but as is now with selling my collection, because I have made great progress with those original shelves with all that original stuff I showed in video 1, I have now went and pulled a lot more games out of storage, including the rest of my CIB GameCube collection. I have 50 to 100 more Xbox titles, and I grabbed the rest of my PS1 collection. Why I was so drawn to buying so many worthless Xbox games, I will never know. I own 2 copies of this Atlas fishing game. Why was I like this? But in bringing these out now and making the conscious decision to sell them, this will basically officially mark my exit from CIB or used game collecting for those respective consoles. Truthfully, I don't even know the last time I've bought a used PS1 game or a used Xbox or GameCube title as is. I've heavily shifted to only buying factory sealed when it comes to disc-based systems, so everything I pulled out of storage here is basically just stuff from the collecting days of past. The ghost of Greg collecting past. But selling a lot of these games right now does actually suck, because while I do want to buy them back factory sealed at some point, a lot of these games I do not own. Pokemon Coliseum, Custom Robo, Animal Crossing, I will not own a copy of these games once I sell them. And I feel that. Like, there's a reason I've held on to them for years and years despite not looking at them, right? These are games that I do want to own in my collection. But then there's also a lot of games here like Billy Hatcher, Gotcha Force, Cubivore, Ribbit King, or even the Resident Evil collection here, where these are really cool games, especially if you're a GameCube collector, if you like the GameCube console. These are some top tier titles right here. But I don't ultimately have a close connection or really even care about any of these titles. And I will probably never replace most of those with sealed copies. At this time, with my changing collecting goals, it's a lot easier for me to sell something here like Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 Plus, which I have no connection to. The only reason I own this is because it's valuable and it was collectible. That's it. I don't actually care about this game. And that's one of the big shifts I'm trying to make here with selling off all this CIB stuff, buying less sealed, buying more stuff that actually matters to me, having less stuff overall. It's all trying to focus on stuff I actually care to own, instead of just having stuff for the sake of having a big collection. But I do love GameCube. Like, I am still going to collect for it when it comes to sealed and graded. I'll do a collection tour, like once I'm done selling off stuff, once I'm at a good spot, once I feel good with the stuff I own, I will do a collection tour where go through my sealed and graded GameCube, other consoles. I am still 100% in on GameCube. I love the console. I love collecting for it. But something like Xbox and PS1, once I sell the collection I have of that stuff, very, very, very little of it is actually going to be replaced. And even selling a lot of this stuff is going to be painfully slow if I were to try and piece it out. Like this Xbox collection, I'm just gonna have to bundle stuff, $5 a game. 80 to 90% of these games here are $10 and under. Yeah, there are a couple hitters, there's obscure outruns in here. There's a few good games. I did have some good Xbox games too, but a lot of this is just filler. There's a lot of junk. It's just not great titles, at least as far as value is concerned. I'm aware that a lot of these titles in here, Prince of Persia, Tony Hawk, these are great series that all of us played growing up. But those are going to be the next collections there that I'm going to be working through, as well as the expensive GameCube games, because I don't need to dump those. I don't need to accept 60% value on any of these games, and there's no reason for me to, right? Like, these are all valuable, these are all sought after, these will all sell very easy. And like I said in the last video, anything 50 and above is where I'm personally going to be trying to maximize value. Other stuff below $50, I'm way more open to dumping. Which brings us back to Phoenix Resale and the games that I am willing to dump with less care because I just need to get stuff out of my house. And it actually ends up being pretty good overall. So say thank you to every single patron, help support the channel, as well as the YouTube members. I can't do this without you guys. Hit the like button and let's dive into the details here. So if you guys don't know, Phoenix built an app and it's called Quick Flips, and it's designed to make selling games to him fast and easy. And it is. It's actually very impressive. You scan a game with the app and it shows you the value, price charts value, and it gives you an offer that he will give you if you were to sell his game to him. You then just have to ship it, send it to him, and you get paid. And this isn't sponsored or anything like that. This is just my honest take on where the app was worth it for me personally to send some stuff. So I quickly learned that the best offers are these hot games or hot sellers, which you can actually browse the list if you want. I think it gets updated month to month, and it's what actually sells, what he actually wants to receive for games. It's like any video game store. They don't want your trash. They don't want your copies of COD, Madden, whatever it is. They pay more for stuff that actually sells. So with these games, you do generally get the highest offers, but not always. So I scanned this copy of 007 Nightfire, and I'm going to get a $17 offer on a price charts value of 20 or 85%, which is honestly amazing for no work, probably more than any single game store is going to give you. But then I scanned Resident Evil 4, which also has the fire emoji. This game is hot, but I'm getting offered $10 on 30 value or 33%, which is kind of awful, especially for a game like Resident Evil 4. But then if you go back to Resident Evil 2, it's back to being about 74%. So even with the hot list, I was seeing some inconsistency, but generally speaking, all of those games seem to be offers of 60% plus, which is honestly just pretty good. I don't think many people are going to complain about that. I don't think there's much negative to say about that. But after scanning in about 50 games, 60 games, you kind of get a gauge for what kind of offers you're going to get or what kind of games don't get any kind of offers at all. And for myself, a lot of it just wasn't worth me to get rid of for what the offers were. Or I guess I would just rather try to spend a bit of time locally, or I could just offload them locally for about the same price. Like this wrestling game here, which actually did sell locally for 22 bucks, the offer on the app is 8 bucks, which is about 40% of what price chart says. On something like Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which is actually a really good Mega Man compilation on GameCube, the offer is $5 on 16, or about 30%. And then on something like UFC Throwdown, which I get it fully, this is not a popular game. UFC Throwdown, more like UFC Throw in the Trash. But for the sake of transparency, you scan it and it shows being worth 8, and the offer is 82 cents, or about 10%. So you can see where it just isn't worth dumping these games, right? If you're literally going to get pennies on the dollar, I would sooner just give UFC Throwdown away locally than sell it to someone for 82 cents. So the app, the service, it absolutely is slick and impressive, but for someone like myself who's deeply entrenched, who has eBay local, I understand how everything works. It's very selective as to where I want to use it and what valuations make sense for me to use it. If you're someone just looking to dump a collection, maybe you don't have a game store close to you, I don't think you'll do worse than any game store. I do think it's extremely competitive in that sense. But the big caveat on all of this, and what makes it kind of, I would use the word stressful even, is that it is very condition based. These really fair offers, these really high valuations are because Phoenix Resale can also sell on Amazon, where you get really high prices. So it does say your stuff has to be 8 out of 10 condition, you get a free disc resurfacing, so light scratches shouldn't be an issue, and you also do get replacement cases, so hopefully that's not an issue either. But you can't have top disc scratches, bent up manuals, stickers, rips, any kind of actual damage. So I took the time to clean all of these cases, check all the manuals, check all the discs. Some have condition issues here, like this Yu-Gi-Oh manual has some creases and dings. I don't know if this is enough damage to get docked. This Mario Kart disc has a lot of scratches, so I'm actually assuming this gets a value hit, but I'm sending it anyway for science. But there is some added stress here because you're gonna ship the games off and you don't know if I don't know if I'm gonna get 100% payout on those right now. I'm really hoping I will, but I don't know I will. But with all of that said, I did find 18 games where I like the value. I'm gonna ship them off to Phoenix Resale, and it came out, well, I'm hoping it comes out to $357, which is great. That's awesome. If I can just ship away 18 titles, $360, that is a lot of money put towards Mission Mario. There will also be a shipping charge there, and then if I have any kind of deductions at all, I will absolutely let you guys know. But there's a lot more stuff out the door than just Phoenix this time around. Because also in Canada, you guys probably know him in the Discord, rDuels runs 2 game stores out of Ontario, the Niagara region, Gaming Gators. So I'm not sponsored by him either, but I just like him. And he said if you want to check out Gaming Gators online, I'll have the link in the description, maybe I'll pin the comment. You can save 10% on any games with the code GetTheGreg. So you can check out his store if you want, but I was also able to sell him a lot of games. And this is some stuff that did have a little bit of condition issues, maybe some stickers or a little bit of damage to cover art, bent manuals. I don't have to worry about any of that. This is a lot of games here where he made me an offer on them, sight unseen, and I know that is exactly the amount I'm going to get. And there are quality games in here as well. The Tales of Symphonias, those Resident Evil games I mentioned, Mario Golf, Toadstool Tours, Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance, absolute classic if you guys have ever played this. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 are just really fun games. But that entire collection of 24 games, I'm sending down to Gaming Gators for $289, which I'm fine with. I'm absolutely fine with that. To be completely honest, I didn't even check the price charting value. Like, I don't know what percent that offer is because I didn't want it to, emotionally, it would have hurt me. You know what I mean? I want to send those to him. I want to help him out. It's mutual. It's all that stuff. And I feared that if I actually looked it up on price charts, I might be like, oh no, I felt like I would feel bad. So I didn't look it up. I just trust him. I'm happy to help each other. But between those 2 lots of games there, that's like 42 games going out the door and like $600. That's awesome. I did get a local sale on WrestleMania 19 and Magna Carta 2, and this game, out of all the games that I post locally, out of all the games that never sell and just sit and rot, I'm gonna get full value on WrestleMania 19 somehow. The pair of them sold for $43 US. It's 60 Canadian. I always just convert for you guys, so that's why sometimes it's weird. This game too, man, Magna Carta 2, Bandai Namco, I always thought this was going to be like one of the rarest, most expensive 360 games. The price has moved a bit in the past like 10 years, but I mean, I've literally owned this for 10 years and I'm walking away with 22 bucks. It just doesn't matter. Never really took off like I thought it would. But let's talk a bit more about Spirits and Spells here, because I'm sure if you are not a deep GameCube collector, you've probably never heard of this game before. This is very much just a full set collector game. There's really no other appeal to it. It's a kid's game. The reviews say it's not really good. It is the only game published by Dreamcatcher. That's a little bit of fun trivia. But unless you're deep into GameCube, there's really no need for you to buy this. And with all of that said, it does still quietly sit at the number 30 spot on price charts at $125 for the CIB. But no surprise, the person buying it is a full set GameCube collector, so this is one of the last 5 games he needs, I think he said. So letting it go for $105, great discount, great local sale. We're both happy. That is just a perfect transaction. So hopefully he's happy with his new Spirits and Spells. And all of these new sales total to $795 added to the Mario budget for a grand total of $1,729 so far. Which doesn't feel great, it still doesn't feel super close, it still doesn't feel real, but once I start going through these expensive GameCube games, these expensive PS1 CIB RPGs, we are going to juice this title on the next Mario update. I need to give myself a deadline here of like 2 weeks to try and sell as much of that other stuff as I can, so I'm gonna push. I'm gonna make a real push here to try and get this to 30-ish%. Basically double the total in the next 2-ish weeks. Like I said, I'll fully update you on anything else that happens with the Phoenix Resale. If we get dinged on the Mario Kart, the Yu-Gi-Oh, I will let you guys know everything about that. Dare I say, if you are interested in purchasing something you saw, reach out. I'm sure we can make a deal. It's going to be close to price charting value, you know, 10%, 20% off. It's going to be condition based. Like most of this stuff is really nice. So I can cut a deal, but I'm not going to give it away. But reach out if you saw something nice. Hit the like button before you go and subscribe to see the future updates of Mission Mario. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.